What's going on, YouTube family? We have a banger for you guys today. Today we're going to be talking about why dealers can't sell cars. Now, I just got back from a dealer convention in Texas, and I sat down with a lot of dealers and a lot of what's called 20 groups to talk about what the current climate is in the automotive market and why they can't sell cars. And after talking to them, banks, and some other vendors, I found there's a lot of issues that are going to affect a lot of people that watch this channel. A little bit of it's going to be good, but unfortunately, majority of it is going to be bad. So make sure you stay tuned to the end. I'm going to give you a breakdown of how everything works. Also, I kind of want to give you guys an update currently what's going on. I know I haven't posted a lot lately because I moved into a new place. This is going to be my house / studio / shop / whatever teaching thing. It was going to be awesome. I was super excited. And unfortunately, this place has been a nightmare. My landlord is extremely cheap. I've had no AC and no water for the last like 10 days. That's why you see me sweating right now. So it's kind of hard for me to make these cool videos. So we're still building the studio. You're going to see videos coming out here. But my goal with this channel is to start doing more things outside of the studio because like I said, giving you guys the information and everything is great, but I want to show you guys literally behind the scenes of what's going on. Now, I'm not going to be walking around a bunch of auctions all day long because unfortunately that's Brandon's thing and there's a few other guys that do that. I want to actually show you about how we're buying cars, how we're fixing them, how we're selling them, and show all those processes actually on my channel because I think that's the next thing we should do to level up after we broke 500,000. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So anytime you go to a dealer convention and you see a lot of dealers there, it's usually a sign that people are struggling. Most times when I go to dealer conventions during a great economy, every dealer thinks they know it all, so they're never there. So this year it was packed down there in Texas. There was so many people trying to figure out, how do I sell more cars? What do I do? Now, something that kind of intrigued me is I know in Vegas, it's very hard to find banks because unfortunately here in Vegas, everybody would rather gamble and spend their money on meth than actually pay their bills. And so that's why a lot of the banks, especially subprime banks, tend to leave this area and go other places. Now, Texas is literally the best place, and I won't say the easiest, but it is kind of the easiest place to buy and sell cars. So when I heard these dealers struggling, like, man, I only got 15 banks, my banks are cutting back, and I started sharing with them what we have to deal with here in Nevada and some other states, it kind of blew their minds. But this was the first time I heard a lot of subprime banks actually cutting back and leaving Texas, which kind of surprised me. Now, after talking to quite a few dealers, I asked them what is the biggest thing they've noticed, and they said it was the down payments and the LTV. Now, LTV is loan to value. The way it works is usually banks want to be about 90 to maybe 95% into the vehicle. Then with the customer come up, maybe $2,000, $3,000 down, that'll cover the sales tax and a small percentage of the vehicle. But right now, banks are really cutting back and they're hitting people around 75 to 85% of LTV. So now customers got to have $3,000 to $5,000 down. Now, I know that seems like not a lot of money for some people watching this, but believe it or not, it is extremely hard. Even today, I decided to put one of my cars up for sale. It's just kind of a fun junker car. It was an Audi TT. I put it up for $1,500. And I'm not joking. I had so many people that called me asking if they can make payments on this $1,500 car. So for all you people saying the economy is great and there's nothing wrong, you guys got to put down the crack pipe and actually look around and see what's going on. But that's kind of the indication of what the auto market's going to. People just don't have money for down payments. Another thing that I thought that was pretty surprising was the fact that even on cheap, well, I should say cheap, but basically cars under $25,000, a lot of these vehicles were so far upside down, almost to 200%. So one of the guys was telling me that somebody had a 2015 Sonata that they owed $22,000 on. Now this is maybe a $5,000 to $6,000 car at the auction if it's in good condition, running good. But this guy owns 3 times that amount. Now during the pandemic, remember, cheap cars went absolutely nuts. Some cars went up to 170, 120% LTV. And so they were just kept adding more and more. And the worst I've seen is 200%, but they usually capped that at $10,000. But there were a lot of banks in Texas that were giving people 200% on cars over 10 grand. So that means that if it's worth 10 grand, like this car, they would give them $20,000 up to amount financed. So all these dealers were complaining. They had so many people with cheap cars that are massively upside down. Now, we all know that during the pandemic, people went out and bought these stupid Dodge Chargers and these Hyundai Palisades for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. I don't know if you guys remember the Toyota RAV4 that the guy paid 40 grand over MSRP for. Now I think they owe like 80 something thousand dollars on that car. So we're used to seeing that with newer cars. I haven't seen it as much with a lot of the older used cars. But unfortunately, during this convention, every dealer I talked to really strained the exact same thing, because at my new car stores, that's all I hear about. Oh, they're upside down. There's no equity. We can't sell them a car. And so unfortunately, with independent dealers, we don't have all the cool stuff that big franchise stores can do. A big franchise store can give you a second loan. So now what they're doing is just like back in 2008. That's why I swear this thing's going to crash just like it did then. People are going out and buying another car and then letting their old one go. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. People are like, well, I paid $60,000 for the Jeep Renegade, but I could buy the exact same one for 40 grand. I'm just going to go ahead and buy this one and let this one go. And so as these people start getting 2-3 auto loans on there, because these banks know that if they don't give them a loan, someone else is going to get it. So they're trying to get as many loans as they can to offset the risk, because they know that somebody else is going to do the exact same thing to them with their high interest loans. Now, when it comes to the independent dealers, unfortunately, our banks are very strict. If they have a very high DTI, debt to income ratio, then we can't give them a second loan. A lot of times if you're subprime, you can only get one auto loan. And that's what we're facing now, is there's a lot of people that are buried in these sub $25,000 auto loans that can't get out of them. And how this is affecting is the small independent dealer, because those are typically the dealerships that service those type of clients. Now, unfortunately, as this starts to push down the economy, this is affecting everybody, because the reason why I tell everybody we want cars to move, we want cars to sell, is because as the market starts moving, the new prices of the cars will start to go lower because of demand, but also people will be selling their older inventory and buying newer stuff at a cheaper rate, which means they can help bring down prices. We need this almost like this liquidity of the market to move around back and forth, so it helps bring prices down. We don't want to be like the housing market, where right now it's like technically the houses are worth less, but since people can't afford the interest rates, there's not as much people out there selling their houses, so it just keeps the houses propped up high. That's exactly where we're at now with the car biz, where we need people to keep buying and selling cars to help that market move around. And so now what I've seen is a bunch of dealers that are stuck with overpriced inventory that they bought maybe 6 months ago that they still can't get rid of. Now, it's great that they got rid of the stuff from last year, but now they just can't move cars. And as these banks start to tighten down, it's getting harder and harder. Now, this is going to affect basically small mom and pop dealers more than franchise stores. And this is the really bad thing, because once these small independent franchise dealers or stores go away, and what happens is all the big franchise stores basically take the place of that small mom and pop dealership, and now those customers get absorbed. And now they're paying higher rates, bigger fees, and that's one more small business out of the way. And unfortunately, when all these cheap, affordable cars start going to franchise stores, they could sell them for way more than an independent dealer goes. So they're going to keep the prices high, keep everything up there really crazy, and then it's going to affect all the independent dealers around it. Now, I know a lot of you guys watching my channel absolutely hate dealers, and I totally understand there's a lot of shady dealers out there. But believe it or not, there's actually a lot of good dealers. When I was down there in Texas at the San Antonio convention, there was a lot of good people that were just talking about the issues they were having. A lot of them are starting to do what's called buy here, pay here, because they're becoming the bank, because the bank doesn't want to approve these people, because people still need to get around. They still got to go to work and stuff like that. And just remember, when all the banks basically turn you down and say they don't want to take a risk on you, a lot of these independent dealers are actually picking up that mantle and giving you a car and trusting you, hoping that you'll make the payment. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't always work out all that way. One of the 20 groups, which is a bunch of dealers that get together and talk about their experiences, was all about buy here, pay here financing. And they're absolutely exploding because, you know, buy here, pay here dealers usually charge 18 to 25%. And everyone used to think, oh, that's crazy high, that's stupid high. But now if you go get a used car, even at a franchise store, they're still whacking you at 18 to 20%. So you might as well get a car for a little bit cheaper and go to independent dealer. But now that they're booming, they're running out of money because people are just not paying them. So even though they got rid of their more expensive cars and they gave them a cheaper car to get back on their feet, unfortunately, it's either inflation or people just don't care. They keep thinking they're going to get bailed out. I know this sounds bad, but people need to start paying their bills and stop living above their means. And that's the same thing we keep going into. That's why I keep saying, the more this pans out, the more it feels like 2008 all over again. People refuse to basically wind back their finances because we're in a recession. People get mad even when I say it on this channel, we're not in a recession, everything is fine. Whatever, keep drinking the Kool-Aid. But we can see it all the way across the board, from independent dealers all the way up to big franchise stores to even the banks. The banks were complaining that they weren't getting enough customers because every month the banks have to pay thousands of dollars in basically interest payments to either the Fed, the Gov, investment firms, wherever they get their money from. And so their whole goal is to turn that money as fast as they can to make a profit. And so if they're bitching that they can't get enough auto loans on the books to outrun some of the negative equity and the bad debt they got from taking all these crazy auto loans back in the day, what that means for them is that their next round of funding, they're not going to get the big chunks of money. So they're going to start lending less and less and less. And as you can see, dealers are offering less, financing less, and can't get as many cars out. Banks are going to be lending less and not as much cars going out. This is going to affect everybody. It's going to get much, much harder to buy a car. So even if the prices come down, you can't get financed because everybody doesn't want to take that risk. So this is the downfall with our current economy. But I'd love to know your opinion on what you think of the current market. Have you seen a lot of banks in your area pull back? I remember people getting credit card things in the mail and offering to refinance stuff. A lot of that stuff I've seen just pretty much disappeared overnight. Unless they're whacking you at a very high interest rate, they don't want to do anything for you. And also, one more time, another disclaimer. For all you people that are going to chime in saying, I got 2% interest on my brand new Toyota Camry. Remember, anytime you have a captive lender giving you very, very low interest rate, it's because you're getting screwed somewhere else. Whether they added on a warranty, they made you pay absolutely full top-end retail, whatever it is, more than likely you're getting screwed. So definitely check your paperwork. There's always something in there. I'd rather have you guys get the cheapest price of the car, take an interest rate that's a little bit higher, and hopefully by next year, the rates start coming down, you could always refinance. But anyways, I would love to know your opinions again one more time. And stay tuned. Like I said, we have a lot of really great stuff. I got a new videographer. We're just going to start following me around, doing all this car stuff. We got a bunch of cars out here in the yard that we're going to start bringing in. I'm going to show you guys how I buy them, how I inspect them, and do all this other fun stuff. And we're going to have some new guests coming on. A lot of really cool things. I'm super excited. I'm kind of bummed that my landlord is very cheap and this house is like an absolute nightmare, but I know good things are to come. So I appreciate you guys being patient with me, and we'll see you next video.